Risotto. Did you know that once upon a time, I didn't eat risotto? I always had this impression that it was gluggy and too oily and it would make me sick. However, I tried it one day and instantly fell in love with it. What on earth was I thinking? Anyhow, here's how I make my prawn risotto recipe. I start by cooking 500 grams of prawns that have been peeled, deveined and had the tails removed. I cook it in 2 batches. I've mentioned this in previous videos. If you add all the prawns at once, the temperature of the pan will drop, and instead of the prawns locking in their juices and getting a nice pink golden brown color, they will stew and lose their juices along with a lot of flavor. This principle applies to when you're stir frying other meats like beef or chicken or pork, etc. Once the prawns have been cooked, I put those to the side and start cooking the leeks. I have 2 leeks that I have chopped and added to my pan on a low heat with some oil. I let them cook for about 4 to 5 minutes until they have wilted and start becoming tender. Then add about 200 grams of sliced mushrooms and let them cook for a further 3 to 4 minutes until they start to soften. Next comes about 2 tablespoons of pine nuts that I add to the pan to let them toast for a couple of minutes before I add 2 cups of arborio rice. I stir the rice around to make sure it gets well incorporated into the mixture before I add 1 cup of white wine. I'm using Moscato, but you can use whatever white wine you prefer for cooking. Stir the rice mixture around and allow the alcohol to evaporate, which will take 1 to 2 minutes. Now we are ready to start adding in the stock. I'm using 1 liter of chicken stock that I have boiled. It's important to use hot stock when you're making a risotto. If the stock is cold, it will interrupt the cooking process each time you add it into the pan and will take longer to cook. I grab a soup ladle and I add a ladle of stock into the risotto pan and stir that around. This will help loosen the starch in the rice and give the risotto its creamy texture. Once the liquid is absorbed, I add another ladle of stock and stir that around and continue the process until all the stock is added in. This process will take about 15 to 20 minutes. Once all the stock has been added in, I do a quick taste test. I check to see if the seasoning is right, but also to check if the risotto is cooked. You want a slight bite to it, but you don't want it to be too hard. At this point, I add a little more salt and pepper to the mixture to my own taste. If you find at this point that the risotto isn't cooked through enough and you don't have any stock left, use some hot water instead and keep adding ladles of water until the rice is cooked. Once I was happy with the rice and seasoning, I added 100 grams of baby spinach to the pan and mixed that in. It eventually wilted and shrank in size within 2 to 3 minutes. And finally, I added the prawns back into the pan and mixed them in until everything was well combined. After all that hard work, all that was left was to whack a generous amount on a plate and enjoy. This is a great dish for the winter months when you're looking for something hot and hearty to fill you up on those cold winter days. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please give it a like and consider giving me a follow if you haven't already done so. Feel free to leave a comment to let me know what you think of this recipe, or if you have already tried it, tell me how it went. Also, please check out my other cooking videos for further recipe ideas. Until my next video, take care everyone.